Welcome on in, everybody. Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the channel. Much appreciated. If you guys could subscribe here. Also subscribe to 560 WQAM's YouTube page. You guys can watch Tobin and Leroy every single weekday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And also got Game Day Uncensored, which is coming your way this Sunday at 9 a.m. Myself, Alejandro Solana, and Omar Kelly will get you set for a little Week 4 action. And sure you know, it's a big one. Dolphins, Bills, the rivalry, Bink. Let's get after it after what was a really, really fun series of games last year. You know, a tremendous Week 3 matchup where, you know, you had Ken Dorsey freaking out at the end of the game. You, of course, had Tua getting wobbled in that one. We had somebody punt somebody else right in the butt. Could have been disastrous for the Miami Dolphins. It's one of those things. The ass punt goes from one of the funniest plays, but if the Dolphins lose that game, it's one of the things that would be like, it would live in infamy, the ass punt. But now it's like, it's a hilarious thing. You got to put it on the elevator. You got to celebrate it. And the Dolphins right now, it is, look, I'm just going to say it, dude. It is your classic statement game for the Miami Dolphins in this Week 4 matchup. It's not a must win. It's not a revenge game. I don't think it's at that level, but I do think that if you look at the early goings of this season, you're got a chance to move to 4-0, beat them in their place, take a 2-game division lead, and really you get the up on them too. So it's a huge, huge chance and opportunity for the Miami Dolphins. And yeah, they're going into what is typically, you know, a hostile environment. You know, Bills Mafia, they act like a bunch of yahoos jumping through their tables, throwing their piss snowballs. Thankfully, it is still early on. I saw some belly aching about that. Not from fans, but I saw some media people who were like, oh, man, this should always be flipped. It should be Buffalo. It should be Miami gets it early, Buffalo gets it late. And I'm just like, well, they did that last year, and okay, but you know, afterwards, the Bills fan did nothing but bitch about the sun and bitch about the temperature. And oh my God, did you guys know that Hard Rock Stadium that's had a roof for 3 years, now all of a sudden the sideline is exposed? So I found that hilarious that everybody's like, oh, and it's always to the tilt of the Bills, right? Because it's like, oh, they want the snowy advantage late. They don't really think about, it's never to the advantage of the Dolphins. They always just kind of want the rub on the Bills and see how things go. But Mike McDaniel, listen, he said the thing. He said the thing that is appropriately describing this race, this matchup between the Dolphins and Bills. And if you're not, he says, look, if this one doesn't get you going, what will?
You know, I think division opponents, and like, you know, you have what's been really I don't know, probably under talked about is an opponent of this caliber coming off 9-sack, 5-turnover day. If you need to be motivated for a game like this, check your pulse, or maybe consider a career adjustment.
No, he said his line, dude. He said his playing line. If you check your pulse, if you're not fired up, I don't know if you guys go by neck. I don't know if you guys go by heart. That's over here. I don't know if you guys go by the old wristy wrist to check. I don't know what it is. I don't know if you need a stethoscope, whatever it may be. This one's huge, and it is fun because, look, I think that last year was definitely the step in the right direction for the Miami Dolphins. First of all, they got a win for the Bills for the first time in forever. You know, we talked for a long time, and I know we make fun of the guy because, you know, he's a wild thing. You know, he throws the ball willy-nilly. He will fumble like crazy. But Josh Allen has been the Dolphins' daddy for the most part in his career. He has been. And last year it was a much, much more competitive series. Instead of the Dolphins just getting absolutely throttled by him, they won one. They made Ken Dorsey freak the hell out. They almost won one, probably should have won one in that one on the road. And then the playoff game was even close, and you did that with Skylar Thompson. So I think the Dolphins showed themselves to be on the Bills' level last year and be very close with them. And now the question is, are the Dolphins going to take this opportunity to move ahead of the Bills in the hierarchy of the AFC East, because everybody came into the season and they're thinking to themselves, oh, this is a crazy tough division. I mean, if the Patriots were in any other division, they'd be a threat. If the Jets have Aaron Rodgers, if the Jets, who knows, they could be it with Aaron Rodgers. And, the Dolphins still had the third longest odds. And now it is really flipped on Miami because everybody is giving them their flowers. There's not a lot of doubters out there other than this dopey Michael Lombardi, who, other than I think drafting Leroy Horde, has not done a whole hell of a lot great in his career. This guy, I mean, he bellyaches more than ever. But I mean, just, do you enjoy anything fun? I just want to know. He's sitting here, he's going, oh, the Bills' defensive tape, it was the worst I've seen. All right, dude, I guess what? We have seen bad defenses a lot. You ain't seen a lot of 70 points put up. I mean, people can sit here, they can quibble, and they can say, oh, I mean, please, what is it? Does this say more about the Bills or the Broncos? Hey, they put up 70, and let's just be real about it with the Dolphins. Their speed looked overwhelming. Yes, the Broncos looked gutless at times, and you saw Devon Achane just laying people in waste and all that. But I mean, come on, dude. You're gonna sit here and you're gonna foul up a 70-point effort by an offense, 10 touchdowns by themselves. I just don't know how you can do it. It's a weird one for me, but there are plenty of people who are also on the other side of it and think that this offense is revolutionary. This is changing football. And I do think that is primed in the NFL when everybody thinks you are on the top, on the mountain, and ready to take this thing over. You then will all of a sudden get humbled. And I think the thing that I like about Mike McDaniel, and I like the signal coming out of Tua, is that they started 3-0 last year, and one of the things, and the 3-0 start definitely was cruxed by the fact that Tua got hurt and had to be stretchered off a field. Let's not forget that. But even with that, there was so many up and downs last year, and I do think that experience is beneficial for the Dolphins, even if you have different ways that the Bills are playing, offense, and their defense has looked really, really scary in the early goings. They have been getting after the quarterback. They have been forcing turnovers. They have been all after that debacle that they had against the Jets, where Aaron Rodgers goes down and they end up losing on a special teams touchdown, basically. These next two games, yes, against the Raiders and Commanders, but they have also looked overwhelming. They have, and I think it is going to be interesting for the Dolphins standpoint, because the Dolphins have shown the ability, if they've dealt with adversity this year, they handle it just fine. They have been able to go forth and do great. And we saw that with the mistakes against the Patriots, and we saw that with having to come back and all the lead changes against the Chargers. And I do think it is incumbent upon the Dolphins, if they can get off to a fast start here. I'm curious to see how the Bills react to that, because I think typically if you have gotten off to a fast start against Buffalo, they're not the best comeback team. They do better when they can get out, bully you, front run, and you have to deal with that moose. But here's Tua talking about how he's not that impressed by the 3-0 start thus far.
To think back to 3-0 last year and think of 3-0 this year, I couldn't tell you the feeling that felt like last year. I don't think anyone around the league cares who's 3-0 or who's 4-0, who's 0-3. I mean, there's a lot of football left to be played, and that's how we're looking at this as a team. We have tremendous amount of respect for the Bills and their coaching staff, things that they can do in all three phases of the game. But we're excited for that challenge. We're excited to go back up there and play those guys.
I can't wait, man. I am excited for that. And one of the things that has to be underrated about this with Tua, and while I don't think there's a big revenge game factor for Tua or the Dolphins in this one, I do think for Tua, one of the underrated things, and he talked a little bit about this week, but I think it has been overlooked for the most part, it's not just the fact that he ended last season and you had the health and all that stuff is very scary and bigger picture, really. But the man is still a competitor, and you have to sit there and watch your team and not be able to contribute. And not only that, feel like, man, if you were out there, you probably would have been the difference. For him, he has to be that I do think has to eat at him a little. And so if they could keep this thing going, it will be very, very impressive. Very impressive. As far as the injuries are concerned for the Miami Dolphins, I think the biggest concern that's probably out there is Jalen Phillips. He did not practice today on the injury report. No practice for him, Eric Ezukama, and River Craycraft, who seems like he's going to be out for a little bit. But this is a little bit concerning for Jalen because this is his second injury. It seems like it's a different body part. And, this was expected to be a really big season for him. And yes, they got a tremendous game from Andrew Von Ginkel, but and Bradley Chubb, to be fair, this last game too, which I think there was a lot of pressure on. But Jalen not being available would suck because you want as many monsters that you could throw at Josh Allen, and especially a guy like JP because he's so athletic. Like, there's not many people in the league that you probably think can keep up or take down a guy like Josh Allen, and I don't even know if JP is in that case, but you see Phillips' athleticism and you see how much of a moose he is. I mean, if we're going, moose for moose, that's one of, I think, the few guys out there that could probably not only handle it in speed, but can handle it in size. So, we'll see. But as Vic Fangio was saying this week, and I think he's probably right about this, this is a tough guy to bring down that they have in front of him.
He's not your average Joe quarterback, with his movement and his size and his strength and his courageousness. He's tough. He's really good.
It is one of those things, though. I think that the Dolphins look at this and they know that, look, Josh Allen is really, really good. Nobody, I think, is denying that. Is he one of the best quarterbacks in the league? Probably, for sure. But is he able over these tough, tumultuous games where they get down to the nitty-gritty of it, can he prevent mistakes enough to get his team over the hump? We'll see. I mean, both of these guys are really, him and Tua are playing in what seems like right now at the peak of their powers, and I think that there were some definitely question marks around Josh because of some of the things that he was saying about the way he was playing, he was going to play this season. But I think after that Monday Night Football game and all the turnovers that he had, it was almost like probably the best thing that happened for him because he's got to, he's able to clear that mind a little bit. But this is definitely, for the standpoint of this is, the most complete team the Dolphins are going to face. I think, they're really, really good. They've been off to a fantastic start. If you're just going by name value, like maybe you look at the Chargers and say their pass rushers are more impressive. But I think just as a system, Sean McDermott has these guys so well oiled. So, he's got to look at this and say this is a huge challenge of what they have in front of them. I can't wait for this matchup, man. It feels like it deserves prime time, but I'm happy that it is at 1:00. I'm happy we get to go right at it and see what happens and see what kind of measuring stick this is because both of these fan bases, it's so cool to see this rivalry reinvigorated back to where it was in the 90s because both fan bases super passionate. They're lunatics who are jumping through tables. A lot of banter back and forth, a lot of shit talking back and forth. And so it's really cool. On the other end for the injuries, by the way, the big news is that Jalen Waddle is officially out of concussion protocol, so he wasn't even on the injury report anymore, so that's awesome. Savon Ackerman was limited. Teron Armstead practiced at the limited basis. Deshaun Elliott did too. Connor Williams, he didn't practice yesterday, but he did practice on Thursday, so that's good news. Dolphins seem like they're on their way to getting their starting center back. And the big other news today, Tua Tagovailoa, Offensive Player of the Month. So really cool news for Uno. He gets a well-deserved recognition after a hell of a start for the Miami Dolphins. I can't wait for this one on Sunday.